So guys, France 24, which is a French news organization, that is banned in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Not only France 24, BBC, most major Western countries, news network is banned in Burkina Faso, in the Sahel countries. But they always go around in interviewing presidents that speak bad against the Sahel nation, and also insurgents leaders, like terror group leaders. They interview them on the channel in France to shine a bad light on the Sahel nation. But anyway, this time they pick Nana Akufo, president of Ghana, and he did not disappoint by attacking the Sahel nation. But let's take a listen to what he's talking about in the interview. We're gonna pause it in between and then we're gonna dissect it. So let's get into it. Boom.
In July, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger have created a so-called Confederation of Sahel States. They've had announced that they would withdraw from the regional bloc ECOWAS. How worried are you that this could signal the end of ECOWAS?
It has to be a worrying situation. ECOWAS is a 50-year-old organization, and until this decision on the part of these three states, it had been an important homogenous bloc. So for three of them, and they're all founder members of ECOWAS, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, for them to come to this situation is regrettable. There can be no two ways about it. Now, I don't believe there's any serious-minded West African who will be happy at what has happened. What then matters is, what are we going to do about it?
Because they say we're going out.
Well, it's their right. I mean, because even the treaty that binds us all together has provisions for you to walk out. So that's something that is foreseeable. But I don't believe it's in their interest. I don't believe it's in the interest of the wider ECOWAS bloc to allow this to happen.
So you still hope for a solution?
Well, more than hope. We have to continue to work at it, to make sure that we can, at the end of the day, find some common ground that would allow them to look at the return to ECOWAS. We have to do that. They are three important members of our community, and we can't just wash our hands off them.
He's being so disingenuous here. If the Sahel nation was, and Burkina, these Sahel nations was so important to ECOWAS, why did they first sanction them so heavily and also wanted to go to war with them? Couple months back, I did a video on it where Secretary of State Blinken of the United States went to Ghana, signed a military cooperation with Ghana to destabilize Burkina Faso. So he did this at the time. Then they sanctioned these countries heavily, Nigeria, the whole ECOWAS. They literally cut them off, telling them they cannot attend no meeting, and they are sanctioned. So if they were so important to them, why did they do everything possible in their power to cripple these nations? Anyway, let's continue.
Right. What they've done is wash their hands off ECOWAS. When it came to promising transitions, there were sanctions were lifted. They played around with ECOWAS, and the intentions are pretty clear. They want to stay in power.
That's obvious, and that has to.
You were taken for a ride. That was my.
Well, it may well be, but whatever be the case, that cannot mean that we will stop wanting to work to see what the possibilities are of a reintegration of the three countries back into ECOWAS.
The Sahel nation will never return to ECOWAS. So that pipe dream that you have, that's never going to happen. They will never return. I don't know what they're going to get into their head by now. Let's continue.
There's no reason for us to continue to wash our hands off them. Even if they want to wash their hands off, we cannot wash our hands off them.
Let's take the example of Niger.
Right.
Niger, there's a coup. Elected President Mohamed Bazoum arrested. ECOWAS says we want him out, and we're threatening military intervention.
It hasn't happened.
1 year later, military intervention is off the table, unless I missed something. and President Bazoum is in jail and no one says
It
anything.
is an unacceptable position.
Should there have been a military intervention?
I don't want to get into that discussion. It didn't happen.
And it won't happen.
How states evolve and how policies evolve, you cannot predict. But at the moment, it's not happening, and Bazoum is still in prison. I think that his position is unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable that a democratically elected leader like Bazoum should be treated in the manner in which he has been treated. Essentially, people are throwing mud in the face of the Nigerian people. We have to continue to insist on his freedom. As far as I'm concerned, his freedom, unconditional freedom, is still very much on the table, and we will continue to agitate for it and to be part of the ECOWAS demand that he be freed as soon as possible.
Let me just say this. The Western world, the colonizers, including France, Europe, let's say Europe, I want to target any specific country, but European countries and the Western countries, they all love when Africa have election because they can put in their own presidents that they want. And the Zambian leader, I forget his name, not a leader, the opposition leader in Zambia, forget his name. He stated that they have training camps for these African presidents. That they training the Western countries go and they teach them how to manipulate and trick the people into believing they are for them and how to get into power and then work for the Western countries. This is our known fact. So when I see them pushing for Western countries pushing for Africa to have elections, these are why, because most of the time the guys who are running are their guys. So I said that let's try to push for this, and that's one of the reasons why it tips them off so much that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger had expel all Western armies out of their countries, close all the embassies, and the ECOWAS can't manage them, cannot handle them, and that is why he's using trick words, trying to push this narrative that they should go to war with the Sahel nation. This is what the French has been pushing ever since they get banned from stealing uranium from Niger. Billions and billions of dollars annually, yearly, they were stealing from Niger alone because of what? Uranium. And I'm telling you, the only interest is in the resources, not the country itself. They just want to get these guys out so they can go back to the status quo. And this is one of their puppet presidents they are using to do that. And look how he's talking about his own brothers and sisters on the African continent. Tell this man to go back from where he come from. Why are they agreeing with him and also adding their 2 cents into making it seem as if the Sahel nations, the Sahel countries are inadequate and they need the help of the outsiders and ECOWAS. One, their economy has been blossoming since they left ECOWAS, while the Ghanaian economy under Nana Akufo have wrecked. Like they have take so much loans from the IMF, billions and billions. I think like 30 billion or something like that they took from the IMF to help settle the economy. But while the alliance, the AES alliance, Sahel nations, left ECOWAS 2 years ago, and the economies are booming. They are buying everything cash, from upgrading the army to agricultural materials like trucks, excavators, water pumps, seed, fertilizer, upgrading their hospitals, their roads, the infrastructure. So how is it he's saying as if he make it look like they are struggling? They are not struggling. It's quite the opposite. Anyway, let's continue.
Speaking of security, French troops left. Those countries said, we're going to take care of security ourselves, bring Russian mercenaries or whatever. You are a neighbor of Burkina Faso. From your viewpoint, has the situation worsened since the French troops have withdrawn, or has it improved?
It's certainly not improved. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think just yesterday or the day before, we saw a massacre of large numbers of civilians again. And they are right on our border, so we have a good idea of what is going on. The security situation does not appear to have improved, and the need for us to find a solution to this terrorist insurgency in West Africa has grown stronger and stronger.
Are you obviously worried, I assume from what you said, about the state of democracy in West Africa?
So, and that again, that is so laughable. The interview continues, but they talk about democracy and his election, and I don't want to talk about that. Well, this is what interests me the most. When he said that since France leave the Sahel nations, terror group have skyrocketed, and it's the opposite. And here he mentioned there was a uptick in Mali recently, which was some people did and get unalive, which is true. But how did that happen? That wasn't because of Malian government. That was because of the Ukrainian intelligence officers and Ukrainian soldiers was in Mali aiding the terror groups, and they during the attack they get analyzed. I think like 5 Malian soldiers got caught in the crossfire, and that is what he's talking about. But you see, there's this propaganda machine there switching the narrative. This is why France 24 is banned from Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali, because they use incidents and then change the narrative and paint the army as the one causing all this instability. When it's the opposite. Ukrainians even admitted giving intelligence to the terror groups attack citizens and the army. And that's what he's talking about when he said what 200 people get lost their lives in Mali. That's the issue. And they end up expelling the ambassador and closing the embassy of Ukraine and kick them out effectively immediately, like the next day. Mali government kick out the Ukrainian ambassador because of what happened. So Nana Akufa knows this. If I know this, he's a president. I know he get briefing, so he knows this, but yet he refused to speak the truth and helping the France 24 News or the French government to paint this narrative that there's an uptick. Burkina Faso regained 30 to 40% of the country. No, not Mali. The Burkina Faso government with Ibn Traore took back over 70% of the land that was seized from the terror group. They took 60% of the country, and then 5% was run by the government, and then when Ebenchari came into power, he took back 70% of the 60% that the terror group had. So he almost kicking them out and they run. Same thing in the Mali. Mali recovered 30 more percent of their land and run and have it under their control. So since the French leave, they have been pushing back the terror groups drastically because they are gaining ground on them every day. But yet, he's still painting the narrative that because the French leave, there's an uptick. Can't believe that? This is why we need African news and we need channels like mine and like the channels like these to bring forth accurate um data of what happened, not what the BBCs and the CNN and the France 24 and all these other Western propaganda machines that use um, incidents to propagate a false narrative. And this is why we are very important. We need channels like mine, like the WSSM channel and other channel to keep the people informed. And this is why President Traore is so loved, because he tells people exactly what happened and when, how, where, and why. So Mali as well. So this is what a puppet president looks like when he goes against his own to appease the Westerners. Because what he get loans from them, they if and personally I think they're blackmailing him, because in the beginning when he was just elected, he was doing so good the first year, and then all of a sudden just and flip a switch. He's doing a total 180. Now he's working for the outsiders instead of working with the, instead of ECOWAS, work with the Sahel nation, or did not sanction them and do all what they do to basically control them, and it didn't work with the invasion from France when Nigeria was storing ammunition, and Benin and Ivory Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal was storing ammunition and armored vehicles for the French to attack. If Burkina Faso didn't have stepped in, Algeria closing their airspace, and Mali, they didn't come together, they will already retake Niger. But because of the backing of the Sahel nation and then they formed the AES Confederation, which is now a little over a year. And this is what they are afraid of, because with this success, they don't want this to replicate to make sure the African continent become free. Because what Edom Chori and the other leaders have done is show what these puppet presidents have been doing for the past 60 years. What they have accomplished in 2 years, they have accomplished way more than what these people accomplished in 60 years. And that is the fear. They don't want people to realize that, the citizens to realize what a president can do when they work for their people instead of against the people. So anyway, let me know what you think about this, about President this puppet Nana Akufa siding with the outsiders, well, not outsiders, colonizers, and going against his own brothers and sisters. Why? Because most likely they have things on him and he have to do as they say, because he was put there by Western elites. So anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. I don't know. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Boom.